Sooyeon, this is for you.
It's beautiful, Juwon.
Only the best for you. You have no place here anymore.
My Korean Mafia boss husband celebrated his mistress on my birthday. He didn't know my glow-up came with the empire. He'd lose my name is Zara Mensah, and I need you to picture something with me. A grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers dripping gold light across marble floors. White roses on every table. Champagne glasses catching the light. Soft music playing in the background like nothing cruel was happening in the middle of the room. It was the kind of night rich people created when they wanted the world to remember their power. And I walked into that room believing, foolishly, that the night was for me. It was my birthday, but my Korean Mafia boss husband was not celebrating me. Kwon Juwon, the most feared man in 3 provinces, the head of the Kwon syndicate, the man whose name made grown men lower their voices, stood in the center of our ballroom holding a black gift box wrapped with a gold ribbon. His dark suit sat perfectly on his body. His jaw was sharp. His eyes were cold to the world, but soft for the woman standing beside him, Park Sooyeon, his mistress. She wore a black sequined dress that looked like it had been made for attention. Her hair was perfect. Her hand rested on his arm like she had already taken my place and was waiting for me to notice. Then he opened the box. Inside was a diamond necklace. Not small, not quiet, not the kind of gift a man gives by accident. The room clapped for her on my birthday. I stood near the entrance, in a champagne gold satin dress I had spent 3 weeks choosing. My hair was done. My earrings caught the chandelier light. My spine was straight because I had learned a long time ago that sometimes the only thing keeping a woman from breaking is posture. Nobody came to greet me. Nobody said happy birthday. Nobody even looked surprised. That was how I knew this was not a mistake. This was a message. My husband placed the necklace around Sooyeon's neck while every guest watched. She touched the diamonds with 2 fingers and looked at me across the room with a smile so soft, so polished, so cruel. It could have passed for innocence if you did not know women like her. And I knew women like her. Then Chairman Kwon, my husband's father, looked at me from across the ballroom and said loudly enough for 3 tables to hear, "You're late as usual." A few people laughed under their breath. I looked at my husband. I waited, not for an apology, not even for shame. Just one sign that somewhere inside the Korean Mafia boss I had loved for 6 years, there was still a husband who remembered I existed. But Juwon only glanced at me like my pain had interrupted his evening. "You're late," he said. That was all. And that was the moment my marriage ended. Not in court, not in a lawyer's office, not with a slammed door or a broken glass. It ended in a ballroom full of white roses, while my husband celebrated his mistress on my birthday and expected his black wife to stand there quietly, grateful for whatever humiliation the Kwon family decided to feed her. I stood still for 4 seconds, long enough to count the roses on the nearest table. Long enough to see that my name was not on a single place card. Long enough to feel the betrayal settle into my chest, not like fire, like ice. Slow, clean, permanent. And in that silence, I made a decision. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one. A quiet decision. The kind that does not shake. I was done. But here is what nobody in that room knew. The woman they were humiliating was not weak. The black waitress they had mocked for 6 years was not poor. And the wife they thought they could replace had quietly built the empire they were standing inside. They just didn't know it yet. 6 years before that birthday humiliation, I was exactly what they loved calling me, a waitress. Not as an insult, as work. I was a black woman from Atlanta, 24 years old, living in Seoul, working high-end private events. Because my hospitality management degree had brought me across the world, and my bank account had not been as brave as my dreams. I served champagne at charity galas. I carried trays through private dinners. I smiled at people who looked through me like service staff were part of the furniture. That was where Kwon Juwon first saw me. He was at a private corporate dinner, I remember the room clearly. Dark wood, gold trim, rich men pretending their conversations were deeper than money. He asked me to bring him a specific bottle of water from the bar. When I returned, he looked at me and said, "You look like you're thinking about something more interesting than this room." I should have smiled and walked away. Instead, I said, "I am." He tilted his head. "What?" "Structural design," I said. He almost laughed. "For a building? For a brand?" That made him pause. I told him the hotel hosting the dinner was losing its luxury identity. The lighting was wrong, the service flow was wrong. The scent profile did not match the pricing level. The visual story was confused. They were trying to look expensive instead of feeling unforgettable. For the first time that night, Kwon stopped looking bored. He asked my name. 3 months later, I became his wife. His family never forgave him for it. To them, I was not Zara Mensah. I was the black waitress from Atlanta, the foreign girl, the woman with no Korean blood, no family connections, no old money, no political weight, and no reason, in their minds, to stand beside Korean Mafia boss. Chairman Kwon called me the waitress for 6 years, at family dinners, at business events, in front of staff, in front of guests. Sometimes he said it softly. Sometimes he said it with a smile. But he always said it like a ceiling, as if waitress was the highest thing I could ever be. Juwon's mother smiled at me with cold politeness and reminded me that the Kwon family had standards. His brother told me more than once that love was not the same as belonging. And Sooyeon, the woman who had known Juwon before me, watched from a safe distance. Waiting, she was patient. I will give her that. For 6 years I gave that family everything. I ran the household. I protected Juwon's public image. I attended dinners where people insulted me and it's careful enough to deny. I learned the names of every partner, every investor, every wife, every daughter, every person who mattered in the clean version of the Kwon world. Because that was the strange thing about my Korean Mafia boss husband. He had 2 empires. One was the shadow empire people whispered about. The other was the legitimate one. Luxury hotels, fine dining, fashion investments, real estate, cultural events, clean money, public respect. That second empire was the one he needed the world to see, and that was the empire I quietly rebuilt. Not as Zara Kwon, not as his wife, as Aiden Noir. 3 years into my marriage, I launched a luxury brand consultancy from the small 3rd-floor room everyone believed was my reading room. Aiden Noir had no face, no public founder, no social media personality, no flashy interviews, just results. A hotel renovation that tripled profit in 2 years. A restaurant group restructure that turned 3 failing locations into the most talked about luxury dining rooms in Seoul. A fashion house pivot that moved an old brand into the center of culture again. 19 companies, 5 industries, hundreds of millions in shifted value, and nobody knew Aiden Noir was me, not my husband, not his father, not his brother, not the mistress who smiled at me on my birthday. And here is the secret that turned my divorce into a counterattack. One of Aiden Noir's longest-running clients was the Kwon Group's legitimate holding company. Their hotels, their restaurants, their fashion division, their clean public image, their respectable empire. All of it had been strategically shaped by me, by the black wife they ignored, by the waitress they mocked, by the woman clearing her own place at their table while they spoke over her. They thought they had dismissed me. What they had actually done was arm me. Now pause here for a second, because I know somebody watching this understands Zara's pain. You have walked into a room ready to be loved, and discovered the room was never set for you. You have been loyal to someone who embarrassed you in public. You have been called small by people standing on work you helped build. If that is you, drop your city in the comments right now. Atlanta, Houston, London, Lagos, Toronto, Seoul, drop it. Because this is not just a Korean mafia boss dark romance story. This is a story for every woman who was underestimated until the truth walked in, dressed like a glow-up. Back to that ballroom. After Chairman Kwon called me late, Sooyeon turned toward me. "Zara," she said sweetly, "you made it." Then she looked at my husband. "Juwon, your wife is here. Your wife." The way she said it made the title sound temporary. Juwon turned fully toward me. For 1 second, I saw something cross his face. Not guilt, impatience. Like I had ruined the rhythm of his mistress' betrayal by showing up to my own birthday humiliation. His mother appeared beside me with that smooth, controlled smile she used when servants were nearby. "Zara," she said quietly, "if you are going to make a scene, consider what it will cost this family's reputation." I looked at her. "The right way," I said, "would have been for my husband not to throw a birthday party for another woman in our home on the night of my birthday." The music seemed to fade. The guests turned. Sooyeon lowered her eyes in fake embarrassment. "I never meant to cause trouble. I only mentioned my birthday was coming soon, and Ju-won insisted." "Of course he did," I said. Ju-won's brother stepped forward with a laugh. "You are embarrassing yourself," he said. "Maybe it is time you remember where you came from." I looked at him. He smiled wider because men like him mistake silence for fear. "You were a waitress," he said. "A foreign waitress with no family money, no background, no standing. My brother gave you a name. He gave you protection. He gave you a life." The room was very quiet now, he continued. "If you walk away from the Kwon name, you will find out very quickly how small you are without it." I stared at him long enough for his smile to weaken. Then I said, "The smallest person in this room is the one who thinks a name is a personality." Someone gasped. I turned to Ju-won. He still said nothing. That hurt more than the necklace, more than the party, more than Sooyeon. Because 6 years of marriage came down to one simple truth. When his family insulted me, my husband watched. When his mistress disrespected me, my husband watched. When the room waited to see if the Korean Mafia boss would defend his black wife, he chose silence, and silence is an answer. So I gave mine. "I want a divorce," I said. Ju-won blinked once. His mother stiffened. His brother laughed like I had told a joke. Chairman Kwon placed his glass down slowly. "You should be careful," he said. "Women in your position do not survive pride." "No," I said. "Women in my position survive everything. That is what makes us dangerous." Sooyeon's smile faded. I looked at Chairman Kwon one last time. "You have called me a waitress for 6 years," I said. "I want you to remember that in the months ahead." His eyes narrowed. "Is that a threat?" "No," I said. "It is a prediction." Then I walked out of that ballroom in a gold dress on my birthday, while my Korean Mafia boss husband stood beside his mistress and watched the only woman holding his legitimate empire together leave him behind. The Kwon family laughed after I left. I heard about it later. His brother bet I would come back in 3 days. His mother said I would return before the week ended. Chairman Kwon said, "Women like me always came back once they understood the cost of being alone." Ju-won said nothing. That was his habit. Silence when it mattered. But silence was not going to save him anymore. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Her name was Cho Yoon-ji. And if you have never watched powerful men lose colour at the mention of a woman's name, you need to understand what happened when the Kwon legal team realised who sat across from them. Cho Yoon-ji had handled 3 of the largest divorce settlements in Korean legal history. She did not raise her voice. She did not threaten. She documented. The Kwon family expected to offer me a small settlement, a non-disclosure agreement, and a polite exit from their world. Instead, they received a 47-page preliminary filing, 6 years of unpaid estate management, 6 years of public representation, 6 years of social positioning, 6 years of emotional labour inside one of the most powerful families in Seoul. And that was only the personal side. The business side had not even begun. Ju-won's brother called me that evening. "You are making a mistake," he said. "No," I replied. "I made the mistake 6 years ago. This is the correction. You think a lawyer makes you powerful." "No," I said. "I think evidence does." He went quiet. "Good." 3 weeks after I filed for divorce, the Kwon Group's legitimate holding company received a formal notice from Aiden Noir. All ongoing strategy work was suspended pending contract review. Every hotel launch, every restaurant expansion, every fashion division plan, every clean luxury project connected to the Kwon name. Paused, not cancelled. Paused, that was worse because cancelled gives a man someone to fight. Paused gives him uncertainty, and uncertainty makes investors nervous. I did not sign the letter as Zara Mensah. I signed it as Aiden Noir. That was the first move in my counterattack. Not revenge with noise, not chaos, not begging the world to believe me. Just one signature, one name, one secret identity reveal waiting to happen. 6 weeks into the divorce, the Asian luxury industry gala took place. The Kwon Group was one of the sponsors. Kwon had always attended with his wife. That year, everyone whispered he would bring Sooyeon, a public announcement without saying the words. The mistress becoming the woman on his arm. The black wife being erased. That was what they expected. But I arrived first, not as Kwon's wife, as what I actually was. I stepped into the gala in a champagne satin dress, not the same one from my birthday, but close enough for anyone watching carefully to understand the message. I was not hiding from gold. I had taken it back. Director Lim Seong-jin crossed the room the moment he saw me. He was one of the most influential figures in the Asian luxury market. 4 corporate boards, 2 major industry rebrands. A man people interrupted their own conversations to greet. He came straight to me, took my hand in both of his, and said loudly, "Aiden Noir, the whole industry has been waiting years to meet you." The room changed. You could feel it. Heads turned. Phones lifted. Whispers moved like electricity. Aiden Noir? That was Aiden Noir? The faceless brand architect? The person behind half the luxury market's recent success? A black woman? Aiden Noir was not a man in a private office, not an old money heir, not a Korean executive with family ties. Aiden Noir was Zara Mensah, the waitress, the wife, the woman the Kwon family had spent 6 years looking through. And that was the real glow-up. Not the dress, not the hair, not the industry applause. The glow-up was watching every person who had once dismissed me realize I had been the most valuable person in the room the entire time. Kwon arrived 40 minutes later with Sooyeon on his arm. He saw me before she did. I watched the recognition move across his face in pieces. First confusion, then discomfort, then fear. Not fear of me, fear of what he had missed. Sooyeon leaned closer to him, still smiling, until someone whispered in her ear. Her face changed, just slightly. But I saw it, because women like Sooyeon spend years perfecting their faces, and the first crack is always small. Kwon did not come to me immediately. He stood near the entrance with his mistress on his arm, and watched the industry gather around his estranged wife. The same wife he had allowed his family to call a waitress. The same wife whose birthday he had turned into another woman's celebration. The same wife whose secret work held up his legitimate empire. A glow-up, when it is real, does not need to shout. It enters the room, and the room adjusts. 2 nights later, Sooyeon made her first mistake. I was leaving a private meeting when 2 men I did not know stepped into the corridor ahead of me. They wore polite expressions. That made it worse. One of them said, "Ms. Mensah, some matters are better resolved quietly." The other said it would be in my best interest to withdraw the Aiden Noir review. They spoke carefully. No direct threats. No obvious evidence. Just enough pressure to remind me that Sooyeon had learned from the same world that raised Kwon. But I had learned. I looked at them, then I looked past them. 4 members of my private security team stepped into the corridor behind them. Calm, professional, visible. The 2 men understood the room had changed. So did I. For 6 years, the Kwon family thought I was surviving because of their protection. They never imagined I had built my own. Within 48 hours, my team traced the corridor incident back to Sooyeon's network. Not Kwon. That mattered. Kwon was arrogant, selfish, emotionally careless, but Sooyeon was strategic. She had not come back for love. That was the twist even I had not fully seen. She came back for access. Months earlier, she had heard that an unknown consultant inside the Kwon orbit was transforming their legitimate holdings. She did not know the consultant's name. She only knew the results were extraordinary. She wanted that person. She wanted that strategy for her own family's failing businesses. So she used Kwon. She studied his ego, fed his nostalgia, let him believe she was the woman who understood him before power changed everything. But she was not in love. She was recruiting, and the cruelest part was almost funny. She had used my husband to get close to me. She just did not know I was the woman she was hunting. When Chairman Kwon's people contacted Aiden Noir's management company, They still did not know they were contacting me. They requested an emergency meeting with the principal consultant. They sent a senior representative, a man who had worked inside the Kwon group for 15 years, and believed entering a room slowly counted as a strategy. He sat across from my business manager and said Aiden Noir should understand the privilege of working with the Kwon name. Privilege. That word again. Then he suggested the contract review was an emotional reaction to a private domestic issue. My business manager listened, took notes, then said, Aiden Noir's business decisions are made by Aiden Noir. The principal will not be scheduling a meeting. The representative's expression hardened. He mentioned that the Kwon family had influence, that businesses opposing them often found the city difficult, that loyalty was safer than conflict. My business manager thanked him, stood, and showed him to the door. 2 days later, Aiden Noir sent a formal letter to every major legitimate partner connected to the Kwon holdings. No threats, no insults, no drama, just facts. The letter outlined the scope of Aiden Noir's strategic work, the active contract review, and the importance of business continuity during ownership and leadership uncertainty. It was polite, it was clean, it was devastating, because it told every partner the same thing without saying it directly. The Kwon Group's clean empire was not built by the Kwon name alone. It was built by Aiden Noir, and Aiden Noir was no longer quietly standing behind them. That was when Juwon started calling. The first call came at 11:42 p.m. I watched his name light up my phone. I did not answer. The second came at midnight, then another at 12:17. Then a message. Zara, we need to talk. No apology, just need. Men like Juwon always find need before remorse. By morning, the Kwon Group's hotel launch had been delayed. By noon, 2 investors requested revised risk documents. By evening, 3 major partners asked whether Aiden Noir would continue supporting their projects independently if the Kwon Group's relationship collapsed. That was when Juwon called again. This time he left a voice message. His voice was controlled, but thinner than usual. Zara, I did not know. Call me. I listened once, then deleted it. Because I did not know was not an apology. It was an admission of neglect. The man had slept beside me for 6 years and never cared enough to ask what I was building before sunrise. That was not ignorance. That was convenience. The Kwon panic did not stay private for long. At a closed board meeting, Chairman Kwon demanded to know why partners were hesitating. His advisors told him the truth. Aiden Noir was not just a consultant. Aiden Noir had shaped the Kwon Group's most profitable public-facing ventures. Aiden Noir had built the brand architecture investors trusted. Aiden Noir had become more important to the clean empire than the family wanted to admit. Then someone said the sentence that ended the room. Aiden Noir is Zara Mensah. Chairman Kwon did not speak. His advisors continued. Zara Mensah, his son's wife, the woman he called a waitress, the black wife he dismissed at family dinners, the woman humiliated on her birthday in the family ballroom, the person holding the structure together, one advisor said quietly. She built it. Chairman Kwon's face went still. Not angry, not proud. Still in the way powerful people become. Still when they realize arrogance has been expensive. That was the first public crack in the Kwon empire. Not a scandal, not a police raid, not a shouting match. A fact. The woman they underestimated had been the foundation. And foundations do not need to beg buildings to notice them. They simply move. Then the building learns. Sooyeon's downfall came at the Spring Luxury Forum. She tried to recover before the industry finished turning against her. That was her second mistake. She arrived in a silver dress with Juwon's sister Min-rae beside her, trying to look like she still belonged to the Kwon family circle. But Min-rae did not stay beside her for long. By then, Min-rae had already called me privately. She had apologized, not dramatically, not perfectly, but honestly. She said she had watched me work late in that third-floor room for years. She had known I was more than what they called me. She had said nothing because silence was easier inside that family. I should have spoken soon, sir, she told me. Yes, I said gently. You should have. At the forum, Sooyeon took the stage for a panel about luxury reinvention. That was the irony. Luxury reinvention. She began speaking about vision, instinct, legacy, and the future of Asian luxury. Then Director Lim asked one question. Ms. Park, can you clarify your relationship with the attempted recruitment of Aiden Noir through Kwon Group private channels? The room went quiet. Sooyeon smiled. I'm not sure what you mean. Director Lim did not blink. A second executive asked whether her family business had submitted proposals based on confidential Kwon strategy materials. Her smile tightened. Then a journalist stood, then another. Within 5 minutes, the room had shifted from admiration to examination. No shouting, no chaos, just questions, precise ones. The kind powerful people hate most, because they leave no place to perform innocence. By the next morning, 3 articles had surfaced. Park Sooyeon's family business was under review. Her social invitations disappeared. Her allies stopped answering. And Ju-won, the man she had used as a door, was no longer useful enough to protect her. She left Seoul quietly 2 weeks later. No grand exit, no final scene. That is the thing about people who build themselves on access. When the door closes, they do not know how to stand outside. The divorce took 91 days to finalize. 91 days of documents, meetings, private calls, public whistles. 91 days of Ju-won trying to reach me through lawyers, relatives, business partners, and finally silence. At the final settlement meeting, he looked different, still handsome, still sharp, still Kwon Ju-won, but the room no longer bent around him the way it used to. His father sat beside him with the face of a man forced to swallow a lesson in public. His brother would not look at me. His mother held her handbag too tightly. Cho Yoon-ji slid the final documents across the table, kept my apartment, I kept my business. I kept the consulting rights to every strategy I had created under Aiden Noir. I walked away with a settlement, large enough to make the Kwon legal team stop pretending they had controlled the ending. But the money was not the victory. The victory was simpler. They no longer got to define me. Ju-won waited until the lawyers began packing up before he spoke. Zara. I looked at him. He looked tired in a way I had never seen. Not physically, spiritually. I lost more than I understood, he said. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the ballroom, the necklace, the mistress, his silence. You did, I said. I was wrong, yes, he swallowed. I should have protected you. I shook my head. No, Ju-won. You should have respected me. Protection is what men offer when they still want to feel above you. Respect is what you give when you know someone is standing beside you. He looked down. There was nothing left for him to say. I signed the final page. Zara Mensah. Not Kwon, never again. Comment Aiden Noir right now if you knew she was the real power from the beginning. Because this is the part of the story where the Mistress betrayal turns into the secret identity reveal. This is the part where the black wife they called a waitress becomes the woman holding the empire. This is the part where the glow-up is not makeup, not clothes, not a man choosing her. The glow-up is ownership. The industry awards ceremony happened 3 months later. Best Brand Architect of the Year. Aiden Noir was nominated, and by then the industry had finished processing the truth. The faceless genius had a face. The face belonged to a black woman from Atlanta. The same woman who had spent 6 years being dismissed inside one of the most powerful Korean families in Seoul. I wore white that night, simple, clean, no gold. Gold had been my birthday armor. White was peace. When my name was called, the room stood. Not everyone, but enough. Enough for the sound to feel like a door opening. Director Lim handed me the award. For a moment, I just held it, not because I needed applause, but because I wanted to remember what real recognition felt like when it arrived without begging. Then I stepped to the microphone. Aiden Noir was not built in spite of where I came from, I said. It was built because of it. People called me nothing like it was an insult, but nothing gave me space. Nothing gave me silence. Nothing gave me room to build something true. The room was silent, I continued. When people underestimate you, they reveal their limits, not yours. That line travelled. I saw phones lift. I saw people write it down. And then I saw him. Kwon Ju-won, near the back, not in the front row, not surrounded by power, just sitting there, watching the woman he had failed to see become impossible to ignore. After the ceremony, he came to me, slowly, carefully, like a man approaching a door he knew he had no right to open. "Zara," he said. Just my name. The way he had said it 6 years earlier when I was a waitress, with a tray in my hands and a mind full of designs he never bothered to fully understand. "You were always the Empire," he said. "I just never looked. I studied him. For years I had imagined that moment. I thought I would feel victory, or anger, or the sharp sweetness of watching regret land exactly where it belonged. But I felt something quieter, finished, clean. Like I had carried a heavy thing to the end of the road and could finally set it down. "You did not fail to see me because you were blind," I said. "You failed to see me because looking would have cost you the story you told yourself about who you were." He did not answer, so I gave him the truth. "I was not invisible, Ju-won. I was inconvenient." His face changed. That line reached him, not because it was cruel, because it was true. "I don't hate you," I said. "I want you to know that. I spent some time in hate, and it was not useful. What I am now is clear, and clear is more valuable than angry." Then I picked up my award, and I walked away, again. But this time, I was not walking out of a birthday humiliation. I was walking into my own life. She won, not because she took revenge in the loud way people expect, not because she begged a Korean Mafia boss husband to love her, not because the mistress lost. Not because the Kwon family finally admitted they were wrong. She won because she stopped trying to be convenient for people committed to misunderstanding her. She won because the story they told about her was too small to hold the truth. She won because while they were calling her a waitress, she was building the empire, and when she walked away, the empire followed. So tell me, which part of Zara's story hit you hardest? Was it the birthday betrayal, the mistress receiving the necklace, the secret identity reveal, the moment Ju-won realized his black wife was Aiden Noir, or the final line when she told him she was never invisible, only inconvenient? Drop it in the comments, because I think many of us have been Zara in some way. We have been in rooms not set for us. We have been loyal to people who embarrassed us. We have watched someone else get the flowers while we carried the weight. We have been called small by people standing on the work we quietly built. But Zara Mensah's story teaches one thing clearly. Being overlooked is not the same as being powerless. Sometimes being overlooked gives you cover. Sometimes silence gives you room. Sometimes the people laughing at you are too busy laughing to notice you are building something they will one day need. That is the real revenge glow-up. Not becoming pretty enough for someone who rejected you. Not becoming rich enough to make them jealous. Not becoming cold because they hurt you. The real glow-up is becoming clear. Clear about your value. Clear about your work. Clear about what you will no longer accept. Clear enough to walk away without needing the room to clap. My name is Zara Mensah. I was a black waitress from Atlanta who married a Korean mafia boss and spent 6 years being called exactly that, a waitress, while I quietly built the legitimate empire that held his public world together. He celebrated his mistress on my birthday. He thought I would cry. He thought I would come back. He thought the Kwon name was the prize. But he did not know my glow-up came with contracts. He did not know my silence came with strategy. He did not know the empire he trusted had learned my name before it ever learned his mistake. I walked away with everything. Not everything they gave me. Everything I built. Those are different things. Learn the difference. And remember this. The ending was never his to write. It was always mine.